Hello, I'm Bishop Patrick Dunn from Auckland in New Zealand, and I'm meeting with a group of students from Marist Catholic School, Herne Bay in central Auckland. We're talking about the meaning of Easter. Well, it's lovely to be with you as Easter draws near. Tell me, how many days are there in a week?
7.
Oh, 7, very good. Which of the 7 days, can you remember, which of the 7 days was Jesus nailed to the cross? Do you remember? On Friday, that's right. So you know the story. On the Friday, Jesus was nailed to the cross. Does anyone know what time he was nailed to the cross? 3 o'clock in the afternoon he died. We're told that he was nailed to the cross about the 6th hour, which is the middle of the day. So about noon, and then he died at 3 o'clock on Good Friday. And then you remember the story, they took his body down from the cross and buried it. Do you remember where they buried it? In a tomb, and they rolled the big stone in front of the tomb. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And the following day, what's the day after Friday?
Saturday.
On Saturday, that was a day of special prayer for the Jewish people. So our Lord's body's in the tomb, and everyone was it was a Sabbath day, a day of special prayer. And they left his body in the tomb, but then early the following morning, what day are we up to now? Sunday. You remember the story early on the Sunday morning? Those ladies were going along to anoint the body of Jesus, and we're told it was early in the morning and still dark. So very early in the morning they were making their way to the tomb, and they'd been there just a couple of days ago. They knew where it was, and as they approached the tomb they began to think, I wonder how are we going to roll that big stone away from the tomb. And they turned the corner to where the tomb was, and they saw something that gave them a bit of a fright. Do you remember what did they notice? It gave them a bit of a shock.
That the tomb was half rolled and Jesus was in there.
That's right, the stone was rolled away and Jesus, the body, wasn't there. So they got a huge shock, and they go running back to get the apostles. And do you remember which apostles came running? 2 of the apostles came running to the tomb to find out what was going on. One, his name begins with P, and the other begins with J. Can you remember? Who was the one that begins with P? Peter and John, that's right. They go racing to the tomb. Do you remember who got there first? Peter? Wrong. Who? Oh well. John. Do you know, why did John get there first, do you think?
Because he's
He's younger. And John was younger, much younger than St. Peter. So they race to the tomb. John gets there and stops outside, and St. Peter heaps up and goes barging in, and the body was certainly missing. But do you remember something else they saw gave them a bit of a surprise? The angel, yes, they'd seen the angel had said that he was not present, but they saw something in the tomb that gave them a bit of a surprise. Besides, the angel would give them a bit of a shock too.
Isn't his robes were rolled up in the corner?
Yeah, the robes were there, which was very strange, because why, if his body had been stolen, wouldn't he just pick them up and take them all wrapped up? But the cloths were there, and that gave them a bit of a shock. And St. John tells us, the writer, St. John says, this writing about himself, he said he saw and he believed something strange had happened. Then we're told that Jesus began to appear to his followers, and when he appeared to them, he used to do a strange thing, we're told. He'd say to them, peace be with you, and he'd show them his hands. So he'd go, peace be with you, and they all stared. Why were they staring? Or what were they staring at?
They're staring at holes in his hands.
Yeah, his hands, the marks. They could see the marks. I suppose they looked at his face and thought, it can't be Jesus. We've just seen him died on a cross a couple of days ago. We're not stupid. He was dead. But then they saw the hands and they said, oh, my goodness gracious me. He's risen. It's him. So and that's the great Easter message. And what happened on the Thursday? He washed their feet. Where was that though? The Last Supper, that's right. He had this special meal with his followers, and it was all Jewish people were celebrating the Passover. Does anyone know what the Passover is?
When the angel of God passed over the houses because they had blood marked on their door.
Yeah, in what land? In what land? Begins with E.
Not Egypt.
In Egypt, yeah. Do you remember that the Jewish people had been slaves in Egypt, and then who was the great leader who set them free, led them to freedom? His name begins with M. Moses, that's right. Moses was the great leader, and God told Moses to tell the Jewish people to eat a special lamb, but to be all dressed, ready to move, and to put blood on the doors of their houses. And the angel of death passed over the land of Egypt, and all the firstborn died. But houses where the blood of the lamb was on the doorways, they were spared. So on the Thursday before Jesus died, they were keeping the Passover meal, and they would have had the lamb, the Passover lamb. And at the meal, Jesus did that very strange gesture, didn't he? That he washed the feet of his apostles. And they, how did they feel when Jesus began to wash their feet?
Well, they felt like surprised, like not worthy their feet all the time.
Yeah.
They didn't know what the purpose was of washing their feet, washing his feet.
That's right.
Washing their feet.
They thought that why should he wash our feet? Shouldn't we be washing their feet?
That's right. And what was the lesson that Jesus was trying to teach?
He's giving them power not to be served, but to serve and to help people, and not to look great.
That's right. And that was what he was about to do. He was going to give his life as a ransom for all people, to set people free. He was going to pass through that pathway of death and offer us the promise of everlasting life. One other thing at the Last Supper, what did they have to eat? They had the Passover lamb, but what else do we know that they had to eat? The bread and the wine. And do you remember what Jesus said when he took the bread and took the wine? This is my body given up for you. And with the wine,
He said, when you drink wine and when you eat bread, remember this.
that's right, do this as a memorial of me. And he said for the wine, this is the chalice of my blood. So we receive the life of Jesus, his body and his blood, when we celebrate the Eucharist. So these are the special events of Holy Week. On Holy Thursday we remember the Last Supper and the washing of the feet. And then on Good Friday there was the carrying of the cross, and nailed to the cross at what time? 12 o'clock. And he died at 3, and they buried him in the tomb. And then he lay in the tomb on the Saturday, and early on the Sunday morning they found the empty tomb, and Jesus began to appear to his followers. It's the great Easter mystery. Let's wish everyone a very happy Easter.
Happy Easter, everyone, and may God bless you.